Okay, hi everybody coming back. If you're coming back, we are on lesson 2, the presentation. The last video we did preparing for the listing presentation. These study guides are for all those getting ready to take their real estate salesperson test in the U.S. I can't speak for other countries, just the U.S. Okay, we're going to talk about a listing presentation. And we're just making up these names, by the way. This has no relevance to the test. We're just giving you scenarios that you will encounter. And they may put scenarios on the test and you got to figure it out. But that's all this is. These names you don't have to memorize. You don't have to memorize white polo shirts, brown trousers, none of that. The things I'll tell you need to remember, I'll let you know. Okay, this is just Mr. and Mrs. K. I'm going to call him Mr. and Mrs. K because I can't pronounce this. Mr. and Mrs. K came to the door together. Mrs. K was in a lavender silk blouse, white slacks. Mr. K in a tweed jacket, white polo, brown trousers. I don't know why we need to know all that, but they're both in their mid-60s. From the way they didn't quite meet her eye, Kiera had a feeling that she wasn't the only real estate that they met with recently and perhaps wouldn't be the last. So they're skeptical is what she's saying. All right, let's see what this says. Okay. After settling at the kitchen table, Kiara launched into a brief recap of what she and her firm had to offer. Now, I would suggest that you use your firm or your brokerage as a backup because, especially if you're a newer agent, they are not going to have a lot of faith in you to sell their home because you're not going to have a lot of experience. So the way you want to beat this is you want to say, I'm on a team. I have a team backup, which is going to be your brokerage. The brokerage is not going to let you make mistakes because they are liable and they have to pay a fee if you screw up. So believe me, your brokerage is going to help you. Unless they're really pathetic, then you need to get a new brokerage. But normally your brokerage is going to help you fill out the forms. If you have trouble with that, they're going to set you up with a mentor. So you want to get with a good brokerage that's going to do these types of things. So when you go into your listing presentation and you are a newer agent, which is going to happen if you're taking this test, unless you're like me and just let your license expire and you have to take it again. Lesson learned here, do not let your license expire. So the second meeting, Kiara toured the brownstone the prior week and she scheduled today's meeting. Kiara never did a CMA without having touring the property first, so she always made 2 appointments. It took more time, but Kiara had no idea how agents could prepare a CMA without seeing the site or the house first. Basing property conditions on sellers' reports and rooms and square footage and existing tax records is sketchy because when you go online and you see these pictures of houses, you're not seeing the full effect. You're seeing the best thing that they want you to see. Just like Facebook, social media stuff. They're only going to show you the best stuff, okay? They're not going to show you the roof falling down, that you're living on top of the neighbors, because they're going to try and take pictures that make the house look the best. So touring the property is the best way to do this when you first go out there. And you just tell them, we'll schedule another appointment and I'll come back and give you a listing presentation. I will give you your CMA, but I would like to come out and look at the property first. It provides more accurate information. And you also see the sellers twice, and the more they see you, the more it's going to help build trust and rapport, which is totally true. All right, setting the stage at the first meeting. All right, you want to go through the house. You want to discuss any recent upgrades. Is there anything you want to do to prepare the property before you're going to list it? Are you planning on painting it? Are you planning on putting new carpet down? Are you going to give a credit for carpet? If you don't, because they might want a certain type of carpet, so giving them a credit to get their own carpet might be a good idea. See, unfortunately, some buyers cannot see past the cosmetic stuff, so that's why it's always better to replace the carpet before they come in. Some people want a ready home, ready to move in. They don't have time to sit there and mess with carpet and paint. You pick a neutral color on your paints. If possible, you don't leave all the rooms with all the decorations and colored paint. If you can get that removed, if you have the money to do that, you should definitely do that. When do you need to sell? How fast do you need to sell? Do you know where you're moving next? Is this estate property? Did somebody die? All these kinds of things are important. Have you had an appraisal done, a home inspection done? What are the numbers? Do you have a price range in mind that you are trying to get from the property so we can get an idea if this is realistic or not? Is there anybody else that needs to be involved in the decision to sell? And this is super important. Because if you got somebody else that's involved, they need to get involved because it could stall the price or the sale of the home. If you go to the table and the title company says somebody else is on this deed and you're just totally ignoring them, you're not going to be able to sell this house without their approval and their signature. And it's just going to stall, and you might end up losing that whole buyer because you didn't disclose that. It's important not to bombard them with too much questions, but you also need to get all these questions answered. Is there anything you're planning on leaving behind? Are you leaving the barbecue behind? Are you leaving the chandeliers behind? Are you leaving the hot tub behind? Are you taking it with you? Do you have all your house painters, handyman, and stagers, and all these things in place? It's going to be a lot of questions, but you're going to need it. And it would be better if you have this all written down on a list. As you keep doing this, more and more and more, you'll have it memorized and you won't need to look at a list. But as you are learning, it would be better if you have all these questions written down so you don't forget any of them. You can always go back and ask them again. If you forget something, it's not a crisis. You can email them, call them on the phone, or whatever you want to do. All right, your second meeting with these people, you're going to present your CMA. You're going to come up with like 4 comparable properties, and you're going to show them color photographs of the interior and exterior of those properties. So they have an idea that these people did not keep their house up. So that's why they had to sell lower price. These other people, they had upgrades galore. They had more bedrooms than you, and that's why their price is higher. So they thought that their house was worth $20,000 more than the numbers Kiera had determined. However, Kiera was able to show them 2 homes that expired because they went overboard on the prices. That's why it's important to show them expired homes that are going overpriced, because this will happen, and it will happen quite often. And then you may not get the listing if they want more money and you're not willing to list it for that. But that's okay, because in 6 months when their house is still sitting on the market, they may call you back up and say, we'd like you to help us because this listing expired. This realtor that I went with didn't help me, so I'm wondering if you can help me. And it's probably because they went too high. Don't be afraid to lose a client, okay, because of that. This isn't Kiera's first meeting. Identify the benefits and drawbacks of Kiera's 2-meeting approach to winning a listing. It takes more time. It provides more accurate. It puts you in front of the sellers multiple times. All these things that we talked about. It takes more time as a drawback. Okay. All right. It provides more information and it puts her in front of the sellers multiple times, which develops a relationship. And that's what you want to do. You want to develop a relationship. All right, while sellers have a lot of questions, it's important that the licensees have a set of questions. What are some of the questions you should and shouldn't ask? Why do you want to sell? What do you owe? You don't need to ask that. Have you done any recent upgrades? And what can you tell me about the property? Where did you come up with the number? The property isn't worth that. No. I wouldn't ask that. Okay. So only one. What do you owe on the property? I want you to ask. Okay. I don't know why we need to ask that because that's more of a mortgage thing. But they're saying you do need to ask that. Have you done any recent upgrades? Okay, I think I got that right. Okay, so if you need to take a screenshot of these questions to help you go on. All right, let's move on. Handling pushback. Okay, let's say it's going to happen. Enter meeting with the K's, push back on the price, and the key is to be prepared because it's going to happen. And sometime in your real estate career, it's going to happen. Do's and don'ts to practice when sellers and agents disagree on the market value. Show comparables. Absolutely. Do that. Disparage agents who provided a higher, I don't know what disparage means. I'm guessing it's discredit agents who provided a higher value. Change the value you determined. Maybe. All right, we don't want to change the value we determined, but everything else is true. Okay. You show comparables, show properties that price too high. You do not put other agents down who offered a higher value. That's going to make you look bad. You do not change the value you determined. Change the value determined. Do? Did I say do last time or don't? Oh, it's don't. Okay. Sorry. Do, don't, and don't. Don't change your value. Okay, there we go. All right. Anybody want to take a quick pick? There you go. If you need any of these lesson resources emailed to you, be sure and contact me on my website and be specific as to which one you want. In this case, you could say the listing presentation, correct? Because that's what we're talking about. Yes, lesson 2, the listing presentation. Okay, Kiara waited, and this was the moment of truth. She put her best, most ethical, professional foot forward. Either way, she would accept the outcome. If they didn't want her as an agent, that's fine. Mrs. K spoke up and says, "What you say makes sense. If we decide to go with you, how would you market our home?" All right, so Kiara spent the next 20 minutes going over the detailed marketing plan. She left with a signed listing agreement, and as she adjusted her rear view mirror, she winked and said, "Roar." Like the lion, right? Katy Perry's song, Roar. All right, so that's your presentation we went over, okay? Next, we're going to talk about Lesson 3, Market Conditions and Seller Motivation, which impact the value. Okay, so if you're staying with me on these 6 lessons on this, this is where we are going to be next, the next video. All right, that's the end of Lesson 2, the presentation. Thank you all. I'll see you on the next video.